Hash the medieval poison that killed 4 popes. Between the years 1276 and 1277, 4 popes sat upon the throne of St. Peter. 4 men claimed the most powerful seat in the Western world, and 4 men died. One after another, in rapid, almost rhythmic succession, the leaders of the Catholic Church perished under circumstances so suspicious that even their own cardinals whispered of murder in the corridors of the Vatican. But no investigation was ever opened, no trial was ever held, no name was ever spoken aloud. For centuries, this was hidden from the world, buried beneath layers of church doctrine, political convenience, and deliberate silence. Tonight, we pull back that curtain, and what you're about to hear changes everything we thought we knew about the medieval papacy. Welcome back to Historical Secrets. To understand what happened, we need to travel back to 13th century Italy, a world where the papacy was not merely a spiritual office. It was a throne of enormous political power. The Pope controlled vast territories across central Italy known as the Papal States. He mediated wars between kings, authorized crusades, and held the terrifying authority to excommunicate entire nations, effectively condemning millions of souls to eternal damnation with a single decree. To control the papacy was to control Europe. And so the most powerful families of Italy, the Orsini, the Colonna, the Angevins, and their allies, waged invisible wars to place their chosen candidates on the papal throne. Elections were not sacred. They were transactions. And when a transaction failed, when the wrong man wore the white robes, there existed a darker remedy. Enter Cantarella. Now, you may have heard this name associated with the Borgia family of the 15th century, but what historians don't tell you is that cantarella, or substances very much like it, were in use long before the Borgias made poison fashionable. Cantarella was believed to be a compound of arsenic, possibly mixed with phosphorus and other substances that medieval alchemists had perfected over generations. It was nearly tasteless. It could be dissolved in wine, and its symptoms, fever, stomach pain, rapid deterioration, mimicked dozens of natural illnesses that regularly killed people in an age with no modern medicine. It was, in every sense, the perfect murder weapon, and in 1276, someone appears to have used it with devastating precision. Pope Innocent V was elected in January of 1276. He lasted 5 months. His death was attributed to fever and general illness. Pope Adrian V succeeded him in July of that same year. He lasted 39 days. 39 days. He never even had time to be formally ordained as a priest, a requirement he had not yet fulfilled before his election. His death was blamed on exhaustion and the summer heat of Viterbo, where the papal court was stationed. Pope John XXI came next, elected in September. He survived roughly 8 months before dying in May of 1277. Officially from injuries sustained when a ceiling in his palace collapsed upon him. And before him, just prior to this deadly sequence, Pope Gregory X had died in January 1276 after a sudden illness overtook him during a journey. 4 popes, 14 months, each death conveniently explained, each explanation just plausible enough to avoid scrutiny. But taken together, the pattern is staggering. The truth was buried for a reason. The Catholic Church in the 13th century could not afford a poison scandal. The papacy was already under siege from political rivals, from the growing power of secular monarchs, from internal divisions between the mendicant orders and the traditional clergy. To admit that someone was assassinating popes, possibly someone within the Church itself, would have been catastrophic. It would have shattered the divine legitimacy that the entire institution depended upon. And so the deaths were recorded simply, quietly, and without question. But the evidence tells a different story. Contemporary chroniclers, writing in monasteries and courts across Europe, noted the unusual pace of papal deaths with a mixture of awe and suspicion. The chronicler Salimbene di Adam, a Franciscan friar who lived through this period, recorded the rapid turnover with a tone that can only be described as knowing. He didn't accuse anyone directly, because doing so would have meant his own death. But his writings carry the unmistakable weight of a man who understood that something deeply unnatural was occurring. Then there is the matter of motive. Each of these popes represented a different political faction. Innocent V was aligned with the Angevins of southern France. Adrian V had ties to the Genoese banking families. John XXI was a Portuguese intellectual with no strong Italian allegiances, making him dangerous precisely because he couldn't be controlled. Each of them, in their own way, threatened someone's interests, and each of them died before they could consolidate power. The figure most frequently mentioned in the shadows of this period is Charles of Anjou, the King of Sicily, and one of the most ruthless political operators of the medieval world. Charles had enormous influence over the papal elections, and he had enormous reason to ensure that no pope sat long enough to challenge his control over southern Italy. When a pope proved cooperative, Charles thrived. When a pope proved independent, that pope didn't last long. It is no coincidence that after this deadly sequence ended, the papacy entered one of its most politically compromised periods, effectively serving the interests of French and Angevin power for decades to come. But Charles of Anjou is only the most visible suspect. What historians have increasingly suggested is that there existed a network of poisoners within the papal court itself, individuals who served not one master but many, offering their services to whichever faction paid the highest price. These were not crude assassins. They were educated men, often trained in the medical and alchemical traditions of Salerno and Bologna, who understood the human body well enough to destroy it without leaving an obvious trace. They moved through the Vatican as physicians, as cooks, as trusted servants, and they carried with them the invisible weapon that no guard could defend against. This changes everything we thought we knew about the medieval church. We are taught that the papacy was a divinely protected institution, that the succession of popes represented an unbroken chain of spiritual authority stretching back to St. Peter himself. But the reality is far more human and far more terrifying. The throne of St. Peter was a target, and the men who sat upon it were as vulnerable to murder as any king or emperor. Perhaps more so, because the very sanctity of the office made investigation impossible. Who would dare accuse a cardinal of poisoning God's chosen representative on earth? Who would risk their immortal soul by suggesting that the church itself was complicit in the murder of its own leaders? And so, the deaths were accepted. The names were recorded in the official lists. The brief pontificates were noted as unfortunate but unremarkable. And the poisoners, whoever they were, disappeared into the silence of history, their work completed, their identities protected by the very institution they had violated. To this day, the Vatican has never opened a formal investigation into the deaths of these 4 popes. The Church's own archives, many of which remain sealed to outside researchers, may contain documents that would illuminate what truly happened during those 14 months of death. But those archives remain closed. The silence continues, and the questions remain unanswered, hovering over the history of the papacy like a shadow that no amount of incense can dispel. Some secrets are kept not because they are forgotten, but because the people who hold them understand that the truth would burn down everything built on top of the lie. The medieval poison that killed 4 popes was never investigated because it was never supposed to be. The system worked exactly as it was designed to work. Power changed hands, the inconvenient were removed, and the faithful were told to keep believing. But now, you know what they didn't want you to know. Next week on Historical Secrets, we explore a mystery that has haunted naval historians for over a century. A fleet of 12 ships departed from a Mediterranean port in 1421, carrying a cargo so secret that no manifest was ever filed. None of those ships were ever seen again. The sea swallowed them, but the questions remain. You are not going to want to miss that one. If this story sent a chill down your spine, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss a revelation. Share this with someone who loves history's darkest corners. And remember, the past is never as clean as they want you to believe.